Hey, welcome or welcome back to Trail and Ultra Running Training. My name is Frantz, and I'm just going to forego the usual introduction because this isn't a usual episode. I want to address kind of where I've been, and one of the big factors has been depression. I don't really want to talk about it. If you want to talk about it, then you're more than welcome to message me. I'm a fairly open human being, but I have a therapist. I have a group of close friends. This is not a therapy session into a microphone. But I do have people who've messaged me to let me know they missed the podcast. And I know for everybody who sends, or every person who sends a message, there are many who don't. So for those of you who actually do enjoy it and seem to listen, I feel like I at least somewhat owe an explanation, right? Like that's one of the things about putting things out into the world. If you disappear, people wonder. So that's the situation. Pretty significant depression. I can't say it's actually better, but I can say I'm figuring out maybe better ways to deal with it, and I'm pursuing hopefully helpful avenues in the future. I also just didn't feel like I had a lot to say, and these two things probably went together, but I feel like the space is kind of saturated, and I was starting to feel like I wasn't really adding anything to the world by continuing to do this podcast or whatever else, right? In January, I went to Tampa for an NFL Combine prep camp at Yo Murphy's facility. I think it's called the Compound now. It's gone through a couple different names. But it was really cool. And I was surrounded by very high caliber coaches who've been doing this for a long time. And like watching someone like Yo Murphy talk about sprinting to a bunch of people who are trying to run a 40-yard dash as fast as possible so they can make millions of dollars a year doing a sport, this kind of puts things into perspective, and it can make you think, like, what the fuck am I doing? Like, what am I actually adding to this world, this profession? And like, why not send people elsewhere, right? Like, I know a lot of people who are really good coaches, and I have to wonder if I have an actually different perspective than them. And I feel like I do, but it's like, it is a question you should probably ask yourself occasionally. So I took some time to figure that out. And I took some time to figure out where I feel like I might fit in this like fitness and running world that I've found myself. I'm still not entirely sure what I think about that, but here's what I know and what I see. Like in fitness and running, I see people who are really constantly trying to expedite a process that should probably be a lot slower. And whether it's fat loss or muscle gain or getting faster or trying longer race distances, we just all seem to do it so fucking fast. And as a result, we often end up like injured or burnt out, and we end up tearing an Achilles or like tweaking in a knee or hating an activity that we once loved. And then instead of taking like 6 months to assess why the injury happened and actually rehab it, or maybe pursue a different avenue of fitness, we either fall off entirely, or we like push through and do some half-ass banded workouts and then get back to running as quickly as possible and talk about how we need higher levels of motivation and discipline and all these things. Then we wonder why we never really make any real progress year over year. And like from a motivation standpoint, like that's tough. Like things will cycle. You might actually go in and out of different activities. That's really normal. I feel like we see people with whom we become kind of enamored in the public eye, and they've often done the same thing for who knows how long, right? And a lot of the time they become famous because they're so good at those things. But for a lot of other people, we're just trying to be active and do something we enjoy, and it's okay for that to change over time. But we also, like, from the injury side of things, like when a professional athlete gets injured, sometimes they miss an entire fucking season, and the stakes there are much higher, right? Like if they miss a game, they either, depending on their contract, they might lose money, they might like be out of contention for next year. Like if they get injured 2 years in a row, they're often viewed as like too much of a risk, like these kind of things. And also the rehab protocols tend to be a lot better than ours. Not necessarily from like a strength perspective. You still have PTs out there trying to rehab like 300-pound NFL linemen with rubber bands for weeks at a time, which you know my opinion on probably if you've listened to me talk. But they are pulling out all the stops on things like PRP and human growth hormone, and they have personal dietitians and all this stuff. And yes, I know human growth hormone is illegal, and I'm not accusing anybody individually, but let's just say people do shit, right? And yet, here we are, is like everyday runners, everyday athletes, people with like 40 to 50 to 60 a week hour jobs who are doing this is like largely a hobby that we really care about. And we're trying to come back faster than these people getting injections of who knows what. And I'm as guilty of this as anybody else. When I first started running, I fell into like the trail ultra community first. There's a lot of reasons for that. And on one hand, I really appreciate that that was the trajectory. Like, I doubt I would have actually found a love for running had I started with roads. In fact, I know I wouldn't have, because I'd tried running on roads before and I fucking hated it. And at the time, they hurt, and I didn't really know how to run well, and like getting the start on the sidewalk is really tough. So like, it's often just less my like general vibe as a runner or an athlete. Like, no shade to my road runners. I love you. I love coaching you. I run a lot on roads. Like, I actually find it really enjoyable, but running any of the like big 6 marathons sounds like multiple aspects of my own personal autistic hell, and I just would never have really gotten into it had it not been for the trail community. And disappearing into the woods for hours on end while doing hard shit and eating pizza is absolutely much more my thing, right? So I very much appreciate where I landed here. Yet, it did push too much too fast, and I ended up chasing high mileage too quickly, and I got injured, and I got burnout, and instead of taking a lesson from that, I just continued to try to push through. And I see that so much that like should be called out, man. Like, there's multiple ways to do this, and we've just normalized it so much that we're constantly trying to hit whatever the end goal is way faster than we probably should. Like, I remember this ad I saw on Instagram, and it was clearly targeted to people like me, like men in their early 30s, and it promised to help them run a 50K and like bench press 225 in 3 months. And then some like, or they'll coach them forever, right? For one, I know a bit about the marketing here, and I don't want to get into it too much, but it's run through a guy named Alex Hormozy. If you know who he is, like, he's famous for making hundreds of millions of dollars on these kind of promises. Like, his whole thing is like, create an offer that like they feel stupid feeling no to, right? Or saying no to, right? So like, we can get into that, but I expect most people will find the business of the fitness industry incredibly boring. Just know it's like, it's not great. But it's way too fast, right? Someone who can do both of those things and coaches people towards both of those things, 3 months is an absurd thing, an absurd time frame to tell people. And it sounds too good to be true, because it fucking is most of the time. It should take longer if we're going to do it appropriately. And the thing is, like, it doesn't even need to take that much longer in the grand scheme of things. Instead of a month or two, how about a year or two? And like, in the process of doing that, maybe we can actually build better, and we can do some shorter distances and build some speed and build this foundation. And if it's something we actually care about, if the activity is something we actually want to do, I just don't fully understand why we're trying to rush it, why we're trying to rush this like big goal target, right? And a kid at the gym came up to me the other day and was like, hey man, I think like I want to run a marathon. And he doesn't run, he's never run, he doesn't like running. I'm supportive, but like, am I the only one who thinks that maybe that's not the way? Like, I talked to him about running and gave him some advice, and suggested maybe try for like a 5K or a 10K first and see if it's something he really wants to do. And we should probably talk about his goals, because like, he loves doing other stuff. He's not like an inactive kid. He lifts all the time, he moves, he does cardio, he does stuff. So like, this isn't a goal, like, I don't know. This goal may or may not matter to him. It may or may not be a thing that he really likes. And I think he should try running to see if it is. But if it's not, then this doesn't need to be this thing that he chases just because it's a checkbox, right? Like, it would take time away from activities he enjoys and already put him in a really good position to be stronger and faster and do whatever he wants to do later in life. And if he gets hurt or like takes too much time, then he could no longer do those activities, right? And maybe I'm the crazy one, but like, I just don't think like marathon training is hard. It takes a ton of time. And same with like ultra training or triathlon stuff. And if you don't actually enjoy those things, then we could probably do something better with the time. But anyway, that was a long rant to say like this is kind of where I found myself, like doing something I love, helping people get stronger and faster. I do genuinely love what I do, but in an industry in which I like or with which I often feel incredibly out of alignment, I want to help people run better, not just farther. That can be the same thing, but they don't have to be. And I want to help people build a foundation that both reduces like a risk for injury. You never completely get rid of it, right? But we can reduce it if we're stronger. And also a foundation that would like set them up to do other shit in their life. Like not just cross the finish line and call it a day. I think strength matters, not just because it can help you run faster or farther or do hills better, but also because it helps you avoid osteoporosis and like play on the ground with your grandkids and do other shit you want to do. Like in a sport that's often defined, and yet we just like rush it so much and we get so myopic on our goals that we often forget all of these other things and other reasons why we might do something. And I find this ironic in a sport that's often defined by a lot of long, slow training, and yet we really love to rush the process, right? Dichotomy is real. But anyway, I decided a couple things, and that's kind of where we're getting to with this. Like, one, I'm going to be super upfront about the work involved to make any changes, right? Like, I think we have all been through a couple years of bullshit on the internet, maybe the entire internet, I don't know. But like, we're not very honest anymore about the work and effort it takes to do things. And as a result, like, I think that's one of the reasons why we all have these incredibly unrealistic expectations. If you get hurt, it's going to take time before you get back to work. If you don't want to do a thing, maybe we should find another thing, right? But like, it's not fast, it's not easy. That also doesn't mean you should hate it, right? In that vein of doing stuff you enjoy, like most of us should probably actually enjoy our training. We're going to spend a lot of time training, like a lot, like way more time training than you will be racing. So instead of picking this like magical end goal and then doing a bunch of work you don't actually like in order to achieve it, how about we pick activities that we think sound cool and then like and every day, right? Like pick daily activities or weekly activities that you want to do, and then see what events might be appropriate to do based on the shit we want to do every day, right? Like, we love to glorify the past a lot of the time when it comes to like ultra running and training, how like people ran in jorts and they didn't have fancy packs and they didn't use these like hydro flask bottles and they only ate quesadillas and cups or whatever the fuck, right? And we forget that they actually also really love to run. Like a lot of them ran a lot. They didn't run a 50K in their first year. They started running and then they ran more, and a lot of them ran track in high school. They ran in college, and then they like didn't quite make it professionally, so they decided they wanted to keep running though, so they figured out how they could just run farther, right? Like they just love to run, and that's why they were good runners. And that's a thing that maybe we can re-embrace in some way. And two, like another thing that I'm working towards is I personally really want to be a better runner. Like I want to really follow what I'm talking about here. I want to get faster. I want to feel more secure doing longer distances. I want to actually improve at doing this sport, whatever that may mean. There's so many ways to pursue running, but I would actually like to get better at it. I don't think I'm very good, and I think I'm better at helping other people do it than I am myself. But I think some of that is just like, again, trying to go too hard, too fast out the gate. When you start in ultra running, you don't have time to build that speed base. Like you don't have time for much else because it just takes so long or so much of your weekly time to try to build up the volume in a way that's reasonable. So I'm just going to step back and do the stuff that like builds more of that speed foundation, that kind of stuff, right? And this year, like I'm looking to do a couple things. One, hike the Grand Canyon with a friend, which not a rim to rim to rim, just a rim to rim. We're going to go like do the waterfall thing and like see how that goes. I also want to run a big self-supported route here. It ends up being about a 50K. But it happens to go from the base of a mountain that I've like spent a lot of time on to the top of a mountain that I've spent a lot of time on and back down. And that's going to have to be self-supported. And that's the thing that like really matters to me and that my training should lead to. I would also like to run a fast 5K. I don't know what fast means because I'm going to do this probably by the end of the year, and I don't know what progress I'm going to see. I can tell you it's going to suck. And then I want to hit some pretty probably unrealistic strength goals, right? And all of these are, not all of them, many of these are kind of stretch goals, right? And I have like A, B's, and C's for all of them. And I don't know if all of it will happen, but I'm excited about all of them. And I'm excited every week to do the training that might help me get there, which is more important, in my opinion. Like I actually want to do the lifting and do the running and do the things that actually lead to the improvements that I'm going to see that will lead to these goals, right? Because like, then the other benefit is pursuing all of these things will also make me a better coach, right? Like I'll have to learn balance and figure out exactly how to cue certain things and see what they should feel like and really go through this experience. And it will allow me to be better at my job, which is something that really does matter to me. Because like in Tampa, I also kept thinking like, again, what the fuck am I doing? Because when you look at someone like Yo Murphy or some of his staff, like they were really good at sports. Like Yo was in the NFL, is like, for one guy was like a really fast track athlete. And I've never been a great athlete. I'm not particularly good at any sports. Like I've always just really loved the training, to be honest. I think that might actually be a really good marker of a strength and conditioning coach, is that they just love the training arguably way more than the actual event itself. But I'm not really fast. So like I've always wondered, like there's always this thing in the back of my mind, like what business do I have actually training runners? And I think it's a fair question. I don't think the answer is necessary. Like it doesn't need to be pejorative. Like it's a thing we should probably ask ourselves occasionally. Like what business do I have doing this? And over the past couple months, I've come to a couple conclusions. One, I love my job. Like I love coaching runners. Runners are dedicated, hardworking people who give a shit about what they're trying to do. That's exactly the type of person I'm good at coaching. There are a lot of people on the internet who largely function as like babysitters, like convincing people they're trying to pursue, that they should be trying to pursue whatever goal. That's not me. If you hadn't noticed by the past like 15-minute tirade, I'm just going to tell you to pursue something else, right? I'm also a pretty shitty therapist. It's amazing how many people pursue training as a replacement for therapy. I did it for years, right? Like that's the thing. And I fully support and understand so much the use of training as part of your mental health management, but also maybe find someone to talk to and like work through it, because they're not the same thing, right? Like make both the body and the brain healthier. And much like finding a good coach or trainer, finding a therapist can be a pain in the ass, but good luck. Anyway, I realize our health management system isn't always the best. But beside the point, I'm good at coaching dedicated people through complex problems, and that's often running. Like, oh, I had this kind of injury tweak. What is it? What muscle is it? Someone said shin splints that referred to like 12 different muscles on the front of the shin. Like, there aren't that many, but like, let's figure out what's actually going on and fix it so that we can run better, right? And if you want to pursue a goal and are willing to give it your all, then I'd love to help find a way to facilitate it. Like help bridge the injury gaps and figure out what's missing and determine why you aren't able to see progress and all that shit. Or tell you that it's probably a bad idea and that you're going to get hurt, which is also the case sometimes. Like that's just real. So, and then two, the other thing kind of came to is my lack of running background can actually serve as an asset in coaching certain people, specifically the people I tend to coach, right? Like I didn't run track, I didn't run cross country. I didn't know what I don't know. Well, I do now, but I didn't know what you're supposed to do when I started. So instead I just started like pulling from as much shit as I could and tried to figure out what works. And as it turns out, a lot of things work. That's why everybody's able to tell you that their method has created so much different stuff, because all of them have different benefits for different people. And if you coach enough people, then you will end up seeing progress and enough things that you can push whatever on, right? So it depends, but at the end of the day, it depends on the person and what problem they're currently experiencing. If we're struggling with like injuries and tendon injuries, then we probably need to like do some isometrics to start, and then some like really slow heavy loading, or at least like try and make that the goal, because that's what's ultimately going to help the tendon get better. If we're struggling from weakness, then it's going to also be heavy loading, or maybe in the off season, we actually need to build some muscle mass. If we're looking for power, then maybe we need to like learn some kind of Olympic lift or box jump or whatever. Strength, powerlifting, recovery, tendons, blah, 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 right? Tendon stiffness. Maybe we need to actually learn to do plyometrics properly rather than just treating every jump on the planet as a plyometric. All of it has a place in the long term, right? And all of it has a place for someone at some particular time. And ideally, we would all be doing all of these things in different ratios throughout our year, kind of like an equalizer board. Sometimes some of them need to fall off entirely. Sometimes other one needs to come up. But I think the fact that I never really did see what it's supposed to be can be helpful. Because I grew up with undiagnosed asthma and like a shitty nasal passage, and I hated running, and it probably doesn't qualify, and that certainly doesn't qualify me to help people at the top of the running field, right? Like I don't have any business coaching the next national champion in cross country. That should probably be someone else who's been on that journey in some form or another. It's one of the reasons Yo Murphy is so helpful to like a lot of these NFL combine guys, because he's fucking been there. He went through it. He knows what it takes. Like he knows that experience, and he can talk to them about it and help them get through it and like figure out the pitfalls before they even happen. But I do think most of us as runners don't find this sport at the age of 12. A lot of us didn't run track in high school. We don't know what it was. We like have our movement proclivities before we have certain movement proclivities that don't necessarily help us run better, and we have to deal with that. And if you found this thing as an adult and fell in love with it, want to do your best, or you've taken a lot of time off, etc., then maybe a wider, different perspective can help, right? Anyway, all of that is a very long, rambling explanation to say something along the lines of, this podcast is coming back. And I'm not 100% sure what it'll look like, but I do kind of miss doing it. And I have ideas every week of things that I could talk about. And much like emails I send out, it's not just, I hope, helpful for the people listening to it. It's also helpful for me to like get ideas, to work on ideas in space and like put them out there. And it forces me to work on them well enough that I actually feel not shitty about putting them out in the world, right? Like rather than just like letting them mull in my head, it actually forces me to solidify some things. And it kind of occurred to me that this is the case because I've been puttering around with a lot of like speed stuff lately. I taken a course from Derek Hansen, and I'm helping with a speed clinic at the tennis club and like really pushing through that and trying to solidify the ideas and help it for other people, help me solidify my own ideas, right? Like teaching is one of the best ways to like really solidify your learning. So this is for me as much as it is for anybody else. Now, that said, like it's probably going to sound a little different. It might be a little more off the cuff or a little more honest or whatever you want to call it. I hate the word authentic because everybody thinks authentic is like crying into a fucking camera on TikTok, but that kind of thing, right? Like when you put things on the internet, at least when I put things on the internet, they can feel a little fake. Not entirely, but a little. And some of that is I genuinely don't think that everyone needs to know everything about me, like the way this podcast started about depression, but some of it is also just a lack of wanting to be judged. And if you put this like mildly veneered persona out there, even if it is judged, it doesn't matter because it's not really you. But it turns out that's fucking exhausting. So I'm just going to be a little more unapologetically me, whatever that means. Probably more profanity, but beyond that, I'm not really sure. It's also going to have a new name. The name will be, at least at the time of recording this, I need to double check that it's not already taken for a 12th time, but Running Strong, because it better represents what I actually want to do here. Help people run stronger, whatever that may mean for them. That could mean a bunch of things. So it's going to cover a lot of topics. Running and strength training is the thing. It's what it's always been. And it's become more and more both of those things over time. That includes trail running, it includes ultra running, but it also includes training for 5Ks and sprinting and all this stuff, right? Running strong. And It's also going to have a new title card because I like that photo, but I've had a beard for years and don't really think I plan on cutting it off again, at least not anytime soon. So it'll also just be a better representation of the podcast as a whole, rather than this photo that retroactively looks a lot like the Dylan Bowman free trail photo. Wasn't intentional, didn't see that at the time I made it, but it's just kind of one of those things. So we're going to represent the podcast a little more with the new cover art. And importantly, it will be on the same feed, and it will continue the numbering as is. So you don't have to subscribe to anything new. But when you see a new podcast in your feed, it's not new. It's just what it was, right? And I could say, as far as the numbering, that I want it to represent the fact that it's a shift in direction and a continuation, blah, blah, blah. It's all bullshit. The algorithm tends to like shows with higher numbers. And while I could put in a different number for the robots than I do for the cover, I will absolutely screw that up. So we're just going to keep rolling. I think this is 195. The next one will be 196. And that's it. So podcast, intentionally planning to come back. I'm fine. I've just been a little down. And I'm trying to figure out exactly where I work in this space and what I want to do. And to everybody who's joined me this far along, I appreciate you. And if you choose to stick around, I appreciate you even more. And to any new people, welcome. Weird one to start on. But very honestly, maybe a perfect one to start on. Maybe I'll put this as the top one on Spotify so that you kind of know what's going on. Probably not. That'd be weird. Maybe the next one will be a bit more of an intro. Anyway, glad to have you here. Hope you have a great day. Have some fun with your training. See ya.